HGUC Gundam Delta Kai. Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs, gundam.tk, and you've already seen the unbox and the parts, and there's a lot of them for this HGUC Gundam Delta Kai, and now it's time to put it all together and check it out as an MS. Not of the V variety. And when he's all put together, but before he gets ridiculously armed and winged and veined up here, you can just see that you're going to have one of the more unique lead Gundams, manga pseudo-lead though he is, and you can just see that he's got a lot of similarities going all the way back to the whole Delta line and the Hyakushiki. The bottom of the legs I think are going to look really good with all the gray protruding there on the sides and in the front especially. The knee sticking up XS style is definitely going to look like it's got some business end there in terms of the infinite justice, although without the blades. But more importantly, it's going to be the chest area that really brings this guy to life. With the combination of the light and dark gray there to go along with the white, purple, and yellow in very short succession there inside the chest itself, and the yellow seals on the shoulders don't look all that bad. But the other little bonus of having these little yellow fins over there and the yellow dots, everything about this guy in the upper body, though he has none of the tricolors that we've become so fond of over the last 30 years, still definitely going to set himself apart as a good guy here. But like the new Gundam without its fin funnels on the back, and I feel sorry for anybody who bought that model, this one is meant to be with his huge side skirts on the veins in the back, and especially those proto-fin funnels on the back. Symmetrical, unlike the new there, but definitely he's going to come even more to life thanks to the color that you're going to be getting, because you've got all the purple trim here, both on the front and the back of the side skirts, as well as just on the back there of the veins on the back, which are all looking good. But I think the real highlight has to be those yellow seals down there on the proto-fin funnels and those big chunks of purple on the inside. He's definitely going to look very, very busy, and you can imagine how it's only going to look even more so if you transform him into the Wave Rider. So in terms of articulation, what are you going to get? Well, you're able to bring the legs forward, but not so much, because he's going to kick himself in the chest there with his pointy knee. You're going to get about a 135 down there for a leg bend, and off to the side. The side skirts are also going to be problematic here. The arms are going to do a good job of getting out of the way there, even with the yellow parts, but you can see that the side skirts are going to stop the legs from going up, and because they're on ball joints, don't expect anything fancy. The ankles are going to do a good job of going off to the side, and you've got this armor which moves freely here. The front waist skirt is going to move ever so slightly there, and you can rotate the waist around there and off to the side. He's not going to move all that much, but the shoulders themselves are going to be somewhat locked in because they're not going to be able to move because they've got these giant parts here slapped onto the back. But in terms of the shoulder bend itself, really like that, except if you're going to do anything too much, it's just going to pop off. There goes the fin funnels there on the back, which are on there surprisingly well. And here's the bend at the elbows. You're only going to be getting the 90 there, although you've got some cool looking forearms. This yellow part is going to move up and down. And on the back, these parts here are supposed to be on here pretty solidly. You are going to be able to move this part and pop out a small vein up there. And you can move the fin funnels around this way, but they're not going to do anything in terms of moving this way unless you're going to actually just sort of misuse the model here. And totally armed up here is we've got the long Mega Buster to go along with the high Mega Cannon equipped big shield over there. He's going to get even bulkier there. When you put the shield into the left arm, he did sort of go over to the left, very similar to what we've seen with the 00 Gundam in terms of the 7-sword variation there. This one is a lot lighter and hopefully not going to be as problematic, as so far the arm has kept it in place when you actually move it up. For comparison time though, if you thought the hulked out Unicorn Gundam in his destroy mode here, this is the HGUC. And you can just see that even though the Unicorn is going to have the edge in head height there, not to mention Unicorn spread out into V-fin height there, when you throw on the fin funnels on the back, you're going to have an absolute monster. And if you wanted to compare the shield, where the Unicorn's is already one of the larger ones, or it's certainly one of the more interesting ones, even especially in its spread out form here, but it's going to be nothing compared to that massive spatula that you see there on the left. And next to the non-Hyakushiki Delta Gundam over there, which kicked off this whole line, you can see that there are going to be a lot of similarities there, as the ankles and the feet are going to be pretty much identical. Knees totally different, but down on the shins, they're certainly going to leave their mark in terms of just their cool style there. And you can see that the chest is going to be totally different, not to mention the different styles. Overall, you've got a whole bunch of gold bling and a very interesting color scheme to contrast it here with the Delta Kai. But even though he is a monster, compared to the HGUC Bi-Arlant Custom over here for a very, very similar price, with his nice EFF logo over there on the shoulders, He of the very skinny arms with the interesting style and the interesting looking feet. Big thrusters on the back though. Overall, he's not going to take the win in terms of height, but in overall bulk, even though the Delta Kai is a monster, you can really see the difference here between this production super grunt and the Delta Kai. But when you think fin funnels, who are you going to call? Well, it's got to be the new Gundam here in high grade Universal Century 1144th, with a head height very similar to the Unicorn, and he's going to be a lot taller here than the Delta Kai, even with the smaller V-fins, although it's cool to see the 4 of them on there. And when you compare the height of the fin funnels there, of the Proto and the real variety, you can see that the edge is going to go to the main man himself, Amuro Ray. I'm just trying to start to get him positioned here. You're going to try to do anything with the shield, and you can see with the shoulders that you are going to have some weight issues here, as it's either going to be collapsing inwards or just downwards, as you might expect. The looking down the barrel of the rifle pose is going to work here, but you are going to notice that he is going to be somewhat limited with what you can do on the ground. First of all, the hips are not going to move across very much there. The beam rifle is going to be a little bit long, so it's going to bang into the bicep there. He's only going to get a 90-degree bend there with the elbows anyway, and the shoulders are proving to be problematic as they will drop off. However, you'll notice that the shield is up pretty much parallel to the ground there. The only thing that's keeping it up there, though, is if you take a look at that tricky little knee part, it's banging into the beam saber there and keeping it up here without it collapsing down to the ground. If you do even move this guy, it doesn't stay all that well secured in here to the elbow, as really you've only got that little bit of plastic trying to keep this whole thing attached in. But if you want to bring the party across the other way and have the shield sort of up in the air here, even with this little tiny bit of help that you can get from the purple part there, going around the manipulator, it's really, really touchy, and you know that just a slight breeze will send it over now. I'm not even going to try to reposition the legs here, but you can see with that giant blade in place, if you want to even think of it that way, well, you can also have problems like that. And you can guess that right now in this kind of pose, he's going to be screaming, "Elevate me!" And if you've got a whole bunch of HGH kits around, including some, I'm going to get that manipulator out of there. Anyway, you can get him up in the air here, and it's going to have the bonus of also being able to use some of the weapons up there. And up in the air, he almost held the pose with the shield up in the air for a few seconds there. But you are really going to notice that even up in the air that he's going to be very limited because we're just not used to the ball joints there, limiting the side-to-side motion of the legs, and especially here with these funny-looking knees and the amount of gray that it's going to expose there, it really can come across as looking a little bit strange. But without the weight issues of the ground there, you can actually have him giving the largest middle finger to the galaxy here that you can guess. And again, it's just going to look really big there. You have the cannon there, which isn't going to detach at the moment here, but nonetheless, he's going to look very ridiculous in the fin funnels up there with all the big guns. He's definitely going to look a little bit OP'd. Let's see how long this lasts here. But basically, there's a pose that they're going to show in the manual where he's got this shield pointing up over here so that he can have the big gun coming forward. But you can see there that the minute you take your hand off of it, that it's not quite going to work in terms of the actual blasting somebody out there and not collapsing department. And unlike when he was on the ground and occasionally you could use the knees to prop him up, this pose is really not going to help him here. So far, overall, it's pretty good though that the side skirts are not going to really be bumping in the way, but I have had the fin funnels and the veins on the back collapse off the back, occasionally with just the simplest kind of pose. But one thing that definitely looks out of place is it looks like that beam saber there is just too small when you consider the overall size of the rest of the weapons that he's got. And with the uninspiring beam rifle, the shield that's not going to stay up in place, and the small beam sabers, it seems like it's up to the EK fangs in the form of the proto-fin funnels to see if they can sort of salvage this just in terms of utilizing the seemingly awesome firepower at his disposal. And right now he's purposely positioned at the back of the turntable as he's going to go spinning around. But I've got to say the fin funnels with the two cheap pieces of plastic, I mean, we're not talking about a lot of volume here, are going to do a very good job of getting them off the body there, which is certainly going to free them up in terms of just the overall bulk, especially when you dump the weapons. But they're going to be sitting there at a jaunty angle, similar to the way the old Wii used to, and you can see that he has that interesting effect, and it can only get better if you do happen to have a whole bunch of action bases kicking around, as it creates a totally different dynamic from what these ground dwellers are going to do. But it's still going to be pretty good, especially if you get them up at the right angle here. Right now, this action base looks like it's not all the way attached in there. And right now it looks sort of like his knee is going to be shooting out here, but that's because these are on separate action bases, which is probably not the best way to go about doing it. But if you took the smaller action bases with the bases which are all connectable together, and you had some extra holding arms there, especially if you have them in the right colors here, it's sort of nice to have the gray though, just because you're not going to be focusing on the stand so much, but instead the bright white and purple and yellow weapons that are buzzing all around them. So that'll wrap up my look at the mobile suit mode here for the Gundam Delta Kai. Definitely some very cool aspects in terms of pure visuals, and the ideas of the weapons, of course, some few failures in terms of execution. But don't forget, this is a transforming Gundam, and a lot of the flaws are not due necessarily to the fact he's a transformer. But let's see what this parts former here is going to be able to do in the next part, and as always, stick around for my final thoughts and the verdict. Thanks for watching, everybody. See ya. This isn't all that bad, actually. The shield itself, thanks to the beam sabers, which he can actually grab, is going to double serve here as a kickstand.